Good morning. Happy Friday, guys. Question. Oh, probably would help if I put my headphones on. Oh dear. Hang on a minute. It was all going so well until my puppy dog decided to climb up to be with my other dog. I started falling down the back of the sofa. Anyway, good morning. Welcome to Friday's question of the week. This week I've had a question from a lovely lady called Kryss, and this is her question. What she says is, I double think going to places or seeing people sometimes because I'm worried I will get anxious or have a panic attack. How can I get out of this? I thought that knowing the principles would help, but it all seems a blur sometimes when it comes back. I appreciate you taking the time to read this, Charli. So I'm just going to repeat the question in case that didn't make sense. I double think, so she's overthinking going to places or seeing people because I'm worried I will get anxious or have a panic attack. How can I get out of this? Now, this lady in question has been in the Three Principles community. The Three Principles is much of the foundation of the work that I teach, the inside out nature of life. And so this lady has an understanding of what the principles are pointing to, but she says it's not helping. And she thought that it would help if she understood it, but sometimes it all seems like a blur. So what I want to say to this is that if you're listening to this and you are in the Three Principles community and you have an understanding of the Three Principles and it's just not working yet, don't worry. Have a listen to what I'm about to say. And if you aren't aware of the Three Principles and have no idea what they are, don't worry. I do have a masterclass on the Three Principles, which you can get on my website if you're interested in learning a bit more. I'm actually currently in the process of creating a free masterclass for people that they can access anywhere at any time, which might actually be helpful. But in the meantime, if you are interested, send me a message and I'll send you the link to the other masterclass that I created. But for those of you who struggle with anxiety and have experienced panic attacks, what happens in your system and your nervous system is that there is an experience of up-regulation. So those of you that experienced anxiety might understand the physical symptoms, which could be anything from, heart palpitations, hot or cold sweats, tremors, IBS symptoms, stomach problems, hot flushes, and just a general sense of dread. So the Three Principles are sort of pointing to a spiritual truth, an understanding of human psychology, that we all experience life from the inside out. And what the work that I do with people is I believe that's true. My experience of life thus far and the insights that I've had into my own anxiety and experience of PTSD is that that's true. And I had an insight around how and why my anxiety was there to protect me, although I didn't know that for the many years that I experienced it. And the PTSD was a symptom of the traumatic experience that I'd had at 21 in my life. Now, understanding the principles isn't going to help you understand your anxiety if you're looking at it as a concept or a modality with which to cure your anxiety, because what we're pointing to in the principles community is what is creating that experience. Now, when I teach people, regardless of whether they know about the principles or not, I also teach through the language of the body. The body has innate wisdom. The body speaks a million words without you knowing about it. And the body speaks in sensations, and anxiety, or the symptoms of anxiety, is one way in which it speaks to you. It's a love letter pointing you again to the truth that you are paying attention to a lot of thinking that is scaring you. And the interesting thing about Kryss's message is that she says, I double think. So I overthink going to places or seeing people, sometimes because I'm worried I will get anxious or have a panic attack. Now, the answer's kind of in the question. So if the lady in question, Kryss, if you are thinking about meeting people or going somewhere and you're worried about experiencing anxiety, you are doing that in this moment right now. Like, you've only got this moment right now, which means you are then activating your stress response in this moment by thinking about a future event. The future event isn't happening right now. So the worry and the overthinking is created from thought and my experience, which kind of plays out like a movie in my mind. When that happens, Kryss, you activate a nervous system that's probably been activated over and over and over and over again for a very long time. And therefore, it is neurologically wired in your brain to respond to a perceived threat. And your brain doesn't know the difference between an actual threat in this moment or a perceived thought-created threat about going somewhere or meeting someone. So to understand this, even just on a physiological level, you've only got right now. The future event hasn't happened yet. You are imagining your future created event and feeling the experience of that now. And the worry being that I may have a panic attack and I may experience anxiety, thus creating that in the moment that you're worrying about it. So no amount of understanding intellectually the principles is going to help, because the principles are not a concept, they are a truth. It's the principle of thought that's doing the creating, but not the principle of thought is not your personal thought that comes in and out of your mind. The feelings and sensations in your body are activated through a nervous system sympathetic response to a stressor, which activates a very wonderful, innately brilliant system that is designed to help you run away or fight or freeze. Now, when we pay attention to our thinking over and over and over and over again, particularly if it has the theme of worry or fear about how I am perceived, it's going to feel like I need to control a situation or avoid a situation if I'm going to be okay. So therefore, the brain, which is a machine, comes up with a solution. It goes into its files and finds a solution, which is to avoid going out and seeing people and going to certain places. This is the case if people have anxiety around going to hospitals or going to driving on a motorway or going to a supermarket. The brain has put 2 and 2 together and come up with 8. And the brain has decided, and you've believed the thought that's entered the brain, that it must be the supermarket that is responsible for my anxiety. It must be the hospital that's related to my anxiety. It must be the motorway that is causing my anxiety. But those are not the truth. It's your thinking and your experience of those future case scenarios that's creating your experience. So what I hear in the question, Kryss, is that you've learned the principles and you've learned them intellectually, and they make sense to you on some level. And then you are using the fact that you know the principles to beat yourself with a shitty stick because, oh, this is something else that hasn't worked. And so many people that I talk to, many people that I work with, their biggest habit is being critical of themselves, internalizing blame and shame and criticism, making it mean something about them, because you are the meaning-making machine of any thought that comes into your head, which is all neutral. And if you don't know that and you make meaning of it, you're going to find evidence for your theory that there's something wrong with you. And if you have a theory that you're not good enough and there's something wrong with you, your brain has, firstly, a negativity bias because it's on the lookout for things going wrong, because that's a survival strategy of the brain. But also, I've completely lost my train of thought. That's useful, isn't it, on a live? That's it. The brain has confirmation bias. So if you've picked up along the way that you aren't worthy, that you're not good enough, that there's something wrong with you, which, let's face it, most people have in their psyche somewhere, the brain with its confirmation bias is going to find evidence of its theory. And that is when we tend to get into more kind of anxious thinking, because we have a sense, a foundational belief that there's something wrong with us. And the brain with its confirmation bias will literally be collecting evidence of your theory. And this makes it really interesting, because once you can kind of come up and out of the personal experience of thought and look to what's true. Now, your thoughts are all like, they're personal to you. I understand that. They're coming in and out of your mind. They're based on the characters in your life, based around all the sort of familial relationships and patternings in your world. But the principle of thought is universal, which means every single human is experiencing life through this thought. And a body physiologically tends to work pretty similar to another body. So the stress response and the stress responses in the autonomic nervous system are pretty universal in most humans and animals. And so you can kind of look at what's impersonal rather than what's personal, because when I look at what's personal, I make it mean something about me, rather than looking at the impersonal and seeing what's true. And what's the truth is, your body works in a certain way. You have a nervous system that's brilliantly built. Your brain is a machine. It's always looking out for the negatives. It has a confirmation bias. And your body is always going to be trying to protect you. And the anxious feeling is exactly the same as the excitement feeling, because the same hormones and biochemicals are being released. It's the way we identify with what's happening in our body. And if we have a bias about there's something wrong with me, we will find evidence of that, rather than seeing, I might be excited about going to see these people. Now, if I'm scared of having a panic attack, and I had many in my life, we will come to the conclusion with our brain that going places where that might happen is going to be scary for us. The truth is, you've experienced panic attacks in the past and you have gotten over them. Panic attacks are literally a really kind of big wake up sign from your body, a love letter from your body, a wise message from your body to say, stop paying attention to this thinking because it's taking you down, like a road or a train track that's causing you to be stressed. Now, that system, that fight response, flight response is only meant to be activated once every 24 to 48 hours. Because like I say, it's a kind of evolutionary system where we were meant to be kind of running away from predators. Now, it wasn't designed for current life where we're worrying about social media or we're worrying about going places or we're worrying about money or we're worrying about how we look. It was literally a survival, evolutionary, brilliant design for fighting, fleeing, or freezing, which is one of our kind of ways of playing dead, which you'll see a lot in the animal kingdom. But it wasn't meant to be activated 7 hours a day. And when it is activated that much with all of the adrenaline and noradrenaline and cortisol and immunity switched off and sex hormones are switched off and digestion is switched off, your body needs to let you know that you're paying attention to these thoughts. So it ups the ante and thus we have a panic attack. And our panic attack can look very different for different people. So your unique body will have its own way of expressing that, but also your unique way of experiencing the world will mean that you are the one making meaning of it. So please don't think there's anything wrong with you because you haven't understood this through the lens of the principles. The principles are just pointing to us to what's doing the creating and our innate wisdom. And thus far, your wisdom will have got you out of every single thing that you have experienced in your life. And wisdom will have brought you into my arena. And hopefully, like we will hear something when we're ready to hear something. And I'm not sitting here any differently to you. I experienced anxiety and panic attacks for years and years and years and lots and lots and lots of other things. Last week, I did a vlog for Mental Health Week around the nervous system. It was a lengthy hour-long episode for my podcast, which is on YouTube. It's further down on my Facebook business page. It's on my Instagram. It's everywhere. And I talk very deeply about the nervous system and the different parts of the nervous system, which I think you might find incredibly helpful for anyone who is suffering currently with anxiety and panic attacks. So I will put the link to that in the comment section. But for now, please don't use this as a weapon to beat yourself with, that you understand the principles and it's not working. It's okay. You have to see that that's okay and that there's still a portal. It's showing you a window that there's still something for you to see in this particular area. The how to is by seeing that you are bringing a future event into the present moment. You don't have any other moment. A future event can't jump back in time and make you feel any way whatsoever. That's a trick of the mind. That's an illusion. And it's a very sneaky, seductive illusion, and it feels very real because it is real for you in that moment. That's the power of the principle of thought and consciousness. That is how powerful it is. So please don't think, yeah, there's my evidence that there's something wrong with me. Let's keep exploring and just know that your system is beautifully designed. Your mind is beautifully designed. The mind is no different to the body, and you are not separated from nature. And all it shows me is that your mind and body are working perfectly. It's just a misunderstanding at this point. So try and create some space from the personal content and look to the impersonal physiology and understanding that there is a system at play here that's probably been at play for many years now, that's neurologically wired to do so. And treat yourself with love and care, not, oh no, I can't do it, there's something wrong, there's something wrong. Most of us spend a lifetime looking for what's wrong with us and never looking for what's right. So start to, one way to rewire your neurology is start to look for tiny little joys every single day. Look for tiny little joys. It could be as simple as having a lovely cup of tea, or it could be, stroking a pet, or walking barefoot on the grass, or putting a nice moisturizer on. Anything small, start noticing there, because that's how you rewire the negativity bias, which is just kind of there as a brain, evolutionary survival mechanism. But start looking out for what brings you joy, even the smallest little thing. And when you start looking there, things might start to shift. But please don't think there is anything wrong with you, because there isn't. And for now, if that's the case, if you're feeling worried about going places, just give yourself some time and some space, and don't put any pressure on yourself to do these things. I'll tell you a little story if I've got time, just very quickly. After my brother died, I was, understandably traumatized, and I went back to Derby after some time. And prior to my brother and father's accident, I'd been working in a pub in Derby. I was at university, and I loved working in this pub. I absolutely loved it. And I went back, and my dad went to a different hospital, and I went back to Derby, and I was due to go back to work in the pub. And we didn't have language for anxiety then, but I felt very worried. And when I got to the pub with my then boyfriend, and my housemate also lived with me and worked in the pub, I got there, and the anticipation of going to work, even though I'd loved it, set off this cascade of physical symptoms, which led me to have my first ever panic attack, where I ran into the toilet and I couldn't breathe. Now then, what happened for me was that my brain then associated the pub with, again, I had no language for what was a panic attack. I didn't know what happened. I didn't tell anyone what happened. I had gone to the GP, and they had diagnosed me with PTSD, but I just had no understanding of what was going on for me at the time. I was 21. And so I couldn't go back. And so then I think that my boss and my boyfriend, I like to think this happened, I'm not sure if it actually did, but I think they conspired to get me to come in just for a drink. My boyfriend took me in for a drink. And then Rob, who was the manager at the time, just said, "Oh, Charli, we're really busy. Can you just come and give me a hand?" And so I said, yeah. And I just went behind the bar. And from that moment on, I was absolutely fine. And what I saw then, even back then, was that, I hadn't been thinking about doing the thing. I hadn't been thinking about going back to work at the pub. And so because it was just, I was present in that moment to say yes, I was absolutely fine. So it's always our thinking about a future event, or our anticipation about the future event, and our neurologically wired associations with certain experiences that causes us to fear. So I hope you found that helpful. For those of you who aren't in my free Facebook group, come along in there, because there's loads of free resources in there, and on my podcast and on my YouTube channel and all over the place, really. But for now, happy Friday, or whenever it is you're listening to this. And I'll talk to you very soon. If you have a question for me for next week, let me know. Send it my way and we'll see what we can do. All right, bye.